coffee maker gurgled like it was drowning, which seemed appropriate given the conversation I was about to have. Nora stood at the kitchen counter, still wearing that fake tan from Costa Rica, sorting through 2 weeks' worth of mail with the kind of deliberate focus people use when they're avoiding eye contact. "So," I said, leaning against the doorframe, 14 days of closure with Tanner. That's quite a commitment to your ex-husband's emotional well-being." She didn't look up from the electric bill. "Silas, we've been through this. He needed support during a difficult time." "Right. The mysterious illness." I poured myself coffee, noting how her shoulders tensed. "Funny thing about that. In all your heartfelt explanations about rushing to his side, you never actually mentioned what's wrong with him." The mail sorting stopped. Just like that. Her hands went still over a credit card offer, and I watched the color drain from that expensive Costa Rican tan. "I told you, he's been sick." "What illness, Nora?" The question hung in the air like smoke. She turned around slowly, and for the first time since she'd walked through our front door last night, she looked directly at me. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. I never asked him specifically." I almost laughed. Almost. "You spent 2 weeks playing nurse to your ex-husband, and you never asked what was wrong with him?" It felt invasive, private. More private than you jetting off to Central America with him while I stayed home with Mira. That's when she did the thing that told me everything I needed to know. She looked away again, started shuffling papers, and said, "I don't appreciate the interrogation, Silas. I just got back. 22 years I've worked for the Treasury Department. 22 years of watching people lie, dodge, and weave when they're hiding something. The tells are always the same: the averted gaze, the defensive posture, the way they turn a simple question into an attack on their character. My wife was lying to me." "Mira's been asking about you," I said, changing tactics. "She finished that book series you bought her, the one about the girl detective." Nora's face softened. "How is she? I missed her so much." "She's 8, Nora. 8-year-olds don't understand why their mother disappears for 2 weeks to take care of a man who isn't their father." "You make it sound so sordid." "Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds exactly like what it is." She slammed the mail down on the counter. "Tanner was there for me during the worst period of my life. When we were married, when everything fell apart, when I thought I'd never have children. He deserves my support now." "Funny you should mention children." I took a sip of coffee, watching her face. Mira's been asking questions about that too, about her birth, about why she doesn't look like either of us. If I thought she was pale before, now she looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What kind of questions?" "The kind 8-year-olds ask when they start noticing things. She's smart, Nora. Gets that from you, I suppose." "Silas, what are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking direct questions and getting evasive answers. There's a difference." She grabbed her purse from the counter, car keys jingling. "I need to run errands. We can continue this conversation when you're ready to be reasonable." "What illness does Tanner have?" She froze with her hand on the door handle. "Simple question, Nora. You spent 14 days with him. You must have some idea what's wrong. Stop. Is it cancer, heart disease, something genetic? Stop it. Because if it's genetic, we should probably know, for Mira's sake." She spun around, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Raw, undiluted fear. "Leave Mira out of this." Kind of hard to do that when she's asking why her mother abandoned her for 2 weeks. "I didn't abandon anyone." "Then what would you call it?" She opened her mouth to respond, then seemed to think better of it. Instead, she yanked the door open and walked out, leaving me alone with my coffee and the growing certainty that my marriage was built on lies I was only beginning to understand. I finished my coffee and walked upstairs to check on Mira. She was in her room, reading, dark hair falling across her face in a way that reminded me of, well, not me, not Nora either, come to think of it. "Hey, kiddo." She looked up and smiled. "Hi, Dad. Is Mom really back?" "She's back. She had to run some errands." "Oh." Her face fell slightly. "I thought maybe we could do something together, the 3 of us." I sat on the edge of her bed. "Soon. She's still adjusting to being home." "Dad?" "Yeah." "Why don't I look like you and Mom?" "Kids. They ask the questions adults spend years avoiding. What makes you think you don't look like us?" "Jessica at school says I look adopted. She says her mom says adoptions are when parents can't have real kids." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Jessica's mom talks too much. You're our real kid, Mira. Don't let anyone tell you different." "But do you think I look adopted?" I studied her face. Really studied it. The dark eyes, the olive complexion, the way her nose curved slightly at the tip. Nora had blonde hair and blue eyes. I had brown hair and hazel eyes. Mira looked like, well, she looked like someone else entirely. I think you look like yourself, I said finally. And that's perfect. She seemed satisfied with that answer, but I wasn't. After she went back to her book, I walked to my home office and powered up my computer. 22 years with the Treasury had taught me how to find information, and right now I had questions that needed answers. I started with the basics: flight records, hotel reservations, credit card statements. What I found made my hands shake. The flight records were easy enough to access through my government connections. Nora Oren departed Boston Logan International on March 15th, returned March 29th. Destination: San Jose, Costa Rica. Nothing unusual there, except for the second set of records. Elena Veldon departed Boston Logan International on March 15th, returned March 29th. Same flight, same destination, same return date. I stared at the screen for a full minute before the implications sank in. My wife had traveled to Costa Rica under a false identity, not just a fake name for hotel reservations or restaurant bookings, a full passport-level false identity. My hands were trembling as I pulled up Tanner's records. Marcus Veldon, same flights, same dates. Elena and Marcus Veldon, even their fake names were coordinated. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process what I was seeing. People don't just casually obtain false passports for vacation trips. This required planning, money, and connections I didn't know my wife had. The phone rang, startling me. Larry Kowalski, my partner at Treasury. "Silas, you sound like hell." "Feel like it too. Listen, I need a favor." "Personal or professional?" "Both, probably. I need you to run some background checks. Quietly." There was a pause. "How quietly are we talking?" "The kind where if anyone asks, this conversation never happened." "Jesus, Silas, what's going on?" I told him about the trip, the false identities, the evasive answers about Tanner's illness. Larry listened without interrupting, which told me he was taking this seriously. "Give me the names and dates," he said finally. "I'll see what I can dig up." After I hung up, I sat staring at the computer screen, trying to make sense of what I'd learned. Why would Nora need a false passport to visit her sick ex-husband? What kind of medical treatment requires that level of secrecy? My phone buzzed with a text from Nora. "Picking up groceries. Home by 6. We need to talk." We certainly did. I spent the next few hours digging deeper into Costa Rica. The country had a thriving medical tourism industry, I discovered. People traveled there for everything from cosmetic surgery to experimental treatments, but they also traveled there for procedures that weren't exactly legal in the United States, like organ transplants from living donors who weren't family members. The thought hit me like a physical blow. I sat back in my chair, pieces of a horrible puzzle starting to fall into place. Tanner's mysterious illness, Nora's secretive trip, the false passports, her reaction when I mentioned genetics and Mira. I grabbed my phone and called our family doctor. "Dr. Martinez, it's Silas Oren. I need to ask you about some medical records." "Of course, Silas. What can I help you with?" "Did Nora have any dirt work done recently? Maybe some kind of compatibility testing?" There was a long pause. "Silas, you know I can't discuss your wife's medical information without her consent." "I'm not asking for details. Just, was she tested for anything unusual in the last few months?" Another pause, longer this time. "You should talk to your wife, Silas." The line went quiet. Not the kind of quiet that means someone's thinking. The kind that means someone just confirmed your worst fears without saying a word. I hung up and immediately called Larry back. "That was fast," he said. "I need more than background checks. I need medical records, travel documents, anything you can find on organ transplant facilities in Costa Rica." "Silas, what aren't you telling me?" "I think my wife gave her kidney to her ex-husband." The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Larry, I'm here. Just processing." "That's a hell of an accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's a theory. But I need proof. This is getting into territory that could cost us both our jobs." "I know." "And you still want me to do it?" I thought about Nora's face when I asked about Tanner's illness, the fear in her eyes, the way she'd deflected every question. "Give me 24 hours. After I hung up, I walked downstairs to find Mira watching television. She looked up when I entered the living room. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think Mom loves Tanner more than us?" The question hit me harder than it should have. "Why would you ask that?" "Because she went to take care of him when he was sick. but when I had the flu last month, she still went to work. Out of the mouths of babes. Adults sometimes have complicated relationships with people from their past, I said carefully. It doesn't mean she loves us any less. But she does love him. It wasn't a question. I think she cares about him, yes. More than you? I looked at my daughter, our daughter, and realized I didn't know the answer to that question anymore. I don't know, sweetheart. She nodded like this was the answer she'd expected. I think she does too. Before I could respond, I heard Nora's car in the driveway. Mira immediately brightened and ran to the window. She's back, and she brought flowers. I watched through the window as Nora got out of the car carrying grocery bags and a bouquet of roses. She looked like any suburban wife coming home from errands. But I knew better now. I knew about Elena Veldin and the medical facilities in Costa Rica and the way she'd frozen when I asked about Tanner's illness. She came through the front door with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I brought dinner, she announced, and flowers for the table. Mira hugged her tightly. I missed you so much, Mom. I missed you too, baby. Nora's voice was soft, genuine. Whatever else she was hiding, her love for Mira was real. Why don't you help me put these groceries away? Nora suggested. Then we can make dinner together. I watched them in the kitchen, Nora directing Mira in setting the table, both of them laughing about something. It looked normal. It looked like home. But I kept thinking about false passports and compatibility testing and the way Dr. Martinez had told me to talk to my wife. During dinner, I tried to act normal. I asked Mira about school, complimented Nora on the pasta sauce, made small talk about weekend plans. But underneath it all, I was studying my wife's face, looking for tells, waiting for an opening. After Mira went to bed, Nora poured herself a glass of wine and sat across from me at the kitchen table. You wanted to talk, I said. I owe you an explanation. Several, actually. She took a sip of wine, gathering her thoughts. Tanner and I have history, Silas. Complicated history. When he reached out and said he needed help, I couldn't just ignore it. What kind of help? Medical help. He's very sick. What illness, Nora? There it was again, the frozen moment, the internal calculation. Kidney disease, she said finally. And what? And what did you do to help him? She set down her wineglass and looked directly at me. I got tested to see if I could be a donor. The truth, finally, or at least part of it. Tested where? Here, initially, then in Costa Rica. Why Costa Rica? Because the waiting lists here are years long, and Tanner doesn't have years. I nodded slowly. So you were tested, and I'm compatible. And, her face crumpled, and I gave him one of my kidneys. The admission hung between us like a blade. I stared at my wife, really looked at her, and now I could see what I'd missed before. The way she moved carefully, favoring her left side, the slight pallor beneath her tan, the prescription bottles she'd been hiding in her purse. You gave him your kidney, I repeated. Yes. Without discussing it with me. Yes. Without telling me you were even considering it. Silas. Without mentioning that your ex-husband was in kidney failure. It happened fast. The opportunity in Costa Rica, the clinic that could do it immediately. The clinic that required false passports? Her face went white. How did you? Elena Veldin. Catchy name. Very exotic. She closed her eyes. You've been investigating me. I've been trying to understand why my wife lied to me about major surgery. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. Same thing. She stood up abruptly, wincing slightly. I need some air. Sit down, Nora. We're not done. I can't do this right now. You can't do what? Tell me the truth? She sat back down, but her body language screamed that she wanted to run. What do you want me to say, Silas? That I should have let him die? That I should have asked your permission to save someone's life? I want you to explain why you've been lying to me for months. Months? The compatibility testing was done 3 months ago. I checked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Caught. So this wasn't some emergency decision, I continued. This was planned, coordinated. You've been deceiving me for months while you planned to give away a vital organ to your ex-husband. It's not like that. Then what is it like? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. Tanner and I, we have connections you don't understand. Such as? History, shared experiences. Like what? Another long pause. Like Mira. The room went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I felt something cold and heavy settle in my chest. What about Mira? She's Tanner's biological daughter. The words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to process what she just said. That's impossible. We did IVF. Your sister donated the eggs. No, Silas, we didn't. I was there. I remember the procedures, the injections, the appointments. The appointments were real, but not for IVF. My mind was reeling. Then what were they for? Prenatal care. I was already pregnant. With Tanner's child. Yes. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. You were pregnant with another man's child, and you let me believe? You wanted a baby so badly. We'd been trying for years, and nothing was working, and then I found out I was pregnant, and I thought, you thought you'd lie to me for the rest of our lives. I thought I'd give you the family you wanted. By deceiving me. We were shouting now, and I forced myself to lower my voice. Mira was upstairs, and she didn't need to hear this. How? I asked quietly. How what? How did it happen? When? She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Do you remember when my mother was sick? When I went to Florida to take care of her? I remembered. 3 months of back-and-forth trips while Nora's mother recovered from what we'd been told was a serious illness. She wasn't sick, was she? No. And you weren't in Florida. Not the whole time. You were with Tanner. Yes. I sat back down, trying to absorb the magnitude of what she was telling me. So Mira isn't my daughter. She is your daughter. You raised her. You love her. You're the only father she's ever known. But she's not mine biologically. No. And you've known this for 8 years. Yes. And Tanner's known. Yes. And your mother? Yes. So everyone knew except me. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I thought about Mira upstairs, reading her book, completely unaware that her entire world was built on lies. I thought about 8 years of birthday parties and bedtime stories and parent-teacher conferences, all of it based on deception. Does Mira know? Of course not. But she's starting to ask questions. Kids ask questions. It doesn't mean anything. It means she's not stupid. She can see she doesn't look like us. Lots of kids don't look exactly like their parents. Nora, she has Tanner's eyes, his nose, his coloring. How long did you think you could hide this? I wasn't hiding it. I was protecting our family. Our family, or your secret? She didn't answer. There's more, isn't there? I said. What do you mean? This kidney donation. It's not just about medical compatibility, it's about Mira. I don't know what you're talking about. Kidney disease can be genetic. If Tanner has it, Mira might develop it too. Her face told me I was right. You gave him your kidney because you're afraid Mira might need his someday. That's exactly what this is about. You're hedging your bets, keeping him alive in case our daughter needs him. She's not just your daughter, Silas. She's his too. Does he know that? Know what? That you did this for Mira. That you risked major surgery and lied to your husband because you're worried about her genetic future. We never discussed. Answer the question. Yes, he knows. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process everything. So let me see if I understand this. 8 years ago, you had an affair with your ex-husband, got pregnant, and convinced me the baby was ours through IVF. Then, 3 months ago, you discovered he had kidney disease and realized our daughter might be at risk for the same condition. So you secretly got tested, planned an illegal organ donation in Costa Rica, and lied to me about a 2-week closure trip while you underwent major surgery to save the man who's actually Mira's biological father. She was sobbing now. When you put it like that, how else should I put it? You don't understand the pressure I was under, the fear, the impossible choices. The choice to lie to me wasn't impossible. It was deliberate. I was protecting you. From what? From having to make the same impossible choice. I stared at her. You mean you were protecting yourself from having to admit what you'd done? That's not fair? Fair? You want to talk about fair? I stood up again. Fair would have been telling me the truth 8 years ago. Fair would have been letting me decide whether I wanted to raise another man's child. Fair would have been including me in decisions about major medical procedures. You would have left me. Maybe, but that should have been my choice to make. And Mira would have grown up without a father. She might have grown up with her real father. Tanner wasn't ready to be a father then. And I wasn't ready to be deceived for 8 years. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Nora spoke. What happens now? I don't know. Are you going to tell Mira? I don't know. Are you going to leave us? I don't know. Silas, please. I know I made mistakes, but... Mistakes? I looked at her incredulously. Nora, you built our entire marriage on lies. You let me believe I was Mira's father. You underwent major surgery without telling me. You used false documents to leave the country. These aren't mistakes. This is fraud. Don't use that word. Why not? It's accurate. Because it makes it sound criminal. Isn't it? She didn't answer. My phone buzzed with a text from Larry. Call me. Found something big. I looked at Nora, who was watching me with red, swollen eyes. I need to take this, I said. Silas, please don't... Don't what? Don't find out what else you've been hiding? I walked into my office and called Larry back. Jesus, Silas, where do I start? Start with the medical records. Your wife underwent kidney removal surgery at a clinic in San Jose on March 20th. The recipient was listed as Marcus Veldon, but the real name is Tanner Jossman. I know about that part. There's more, a lot more. Tell me. The clinic she used has been under investigation by Costa Rican authorities for illegal organ trafficking. They cater to wealthy Americans who can't get transplants through legal channels. Why can't Tanner get a legal transplant? That's where it gets interesting. According to his medical records, he's not actually in kidney failure. I felt like I'd been punched. What? His kidney function is impaired, but not critically. He could live for years without a transplant. Maybe decades with proper treatment. Then why? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But Silas, there's something else. Something about your daughter. What about her? I ran her birth records. There are some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? The kind that suggests someone paid a lot of money to make sure certain information stayed buried. I sank into my desk chair. How much money? Hard to say exactly, but we're talking tens of thousands, maybe more. Who paid? Still working on that. But Silas, I think you need to consider the possibility that this kidney donation isn't about medical necessity. Then what's it about? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. After I hung up, I sat in my office staring at the wall. Everything I thought I knew about my life was crumbling around me. My wife was a liar. My daughter wasn't my daughter. And now it seemed like even the kidney donation might be part of some larger deception. I heard footsteps in the hallway and looked up to see Mira standing in the doorway in her pajamas. Dad? Are you and Mom fighting? I forced a smile. Just having a discussion, sweetheart. It sounded like fighting. Sometimes adults have loud discussions about important things. She came into the office and climbed onto my lap. Are you sad? A little. Is it because Mom went away? Partly. I was sad too. I thought maybe she wasn't coming back. I hugged her tighter. She came back. But she might go away again. It wasn't a question. Kids are perceptive in ways that constantly surprise adults. I don't know what's going to happen, Mira, but whatever happens, you and I will be okay. Promise? Promise. She hugged me and went back to bed, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the growing certainty that I'd only begun to uncover the truth about my wife's deceptions. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to Boston General Hospital. If Tanner Jossman was recovering from kidney transplant surgery, there was a good chance he was still there. I found him in the transplant recovery ward, looking healthier than a man who'd supposedly been near demise should look. He was sitting up in bed, talking on his phone, laughing about something. When he saw me, his face went pale. I'll call you back, he said into the phone. Tanner? Silas. I didn't expect to see you here. I bet you didn't. I pulled up a chair next to his bed. So, kidney disease. That must be scary. It was touch and go for a while. I'm sure. What kind of kidney disease exactly? He shifted uncomfortably. The doctors used a lot of technical terms, hard to keep track. Try me. I'm a smart guy. Look, Silas, if Nora told you about the surgery, she told me a lot of things. Some of them might even be true. What's that supposed to mean? I leaned forward. It means I know about the false passports. I know about the clinic in Costa Rica, and I know about Mira. His face went from pale to gray. Nora told you about Mira? She told me Mira is your biological daughter. Silas, listen. I'm listening. Tell me about your kidney disease. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. He was quiet for a long moment, clearly trying to decide how much to reveal. My kidney function was declining. Declining from what? Genetic factors, family history. What's your creatinine level? My what? I almost smiled. Your creatinine level. Basic kidney function test. If you're in kidney failure, you'd know that number by heart. I don't remember the exact... Try again. Silas, I don't appreciate being interrogated. And I don't appreciate being lied to for 8 years. He tried to sit up straighter, wincing slightly. What do you want from me? The truth. starting with why you really needed Nora's kidney. I told you. You told me nothing. Your medical records say your kidney function is impaired, but not critical. You could live for years without a transplant. His eyes widened. You accessed my medical records? I accessed a lot of things. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look. That's illegal. So is organ trafficking. We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. You don't understand the situation. Explain it to me. Nora and I, we have obligations, responsibilities. To who? To Mira. What kind of responsibilities? He was quiet again, clearly wrestling with how much to reveal. Tanner, I already know Mira is your daughter. I already know about the fake pregnancy story and the IVF lies. What I don't know is why Nora risked major surgery for a kidney you didn't desperately need. She didn't tell you? Tell me what? About the genetic testing. I felt that familiar cold sensation in my chest. What genetic testing? Mira's been tested, extensively. For what? Kidney function, genetic markers, hereditary conditions. And she's going to need a transplant, probably before she turns 18. The room seemed to spin around me. What? She has the same genetic markers I do, the same family history. Her kidney function is already showing early signs of decline. I gripped the arms of my chair. You're lying. I wish I was. Mira is healthy. She's never been sick a day in her life. She's 8 years old. The symptoms don't usually manifest until adolescence. If this is true, why didn't Nora tell me? Because she was hoping the genetic testing was wrong. Because she was hoping there was still time to find another solution. What kind of solution? The kind that requires keeping potential donors alive and healthy. The implications hit me like a truck. You mean keeping you alive in case Mira needs your kidney someday? Not just my kidney. Nora's too, if necessary. So this whole transplant was insurance. Nora gave me one of her kidneys so that when Mira needs one, I'll have a healthy kidney to give her. I stared at him, trying to process the twisted logic. That's insane. That's parenthood. That's not parenthood. I don't even know what that is. It's love, Silas. Complicated, messy, desperate love. It's deception. Sometimes they're the same thing. I stood up, needing to move, to think. Does Mira know? Of course not. Does she know you're her biological father? No. Does she know she's going to need a kidney transplant? Not yet. When were you planning to tell her? When we had to. And when were you planning to tell me? Nora was supposed to handle that. Nora was supposed to handle a lot of things. She's not very good at it. He almost smiled. No, she's not. Despite everything, I found myself not hating him in that moment. He looked tired, worried, and genuinely concerned about Mira. Is she really going to need a transplant? I asked. According to the genetic counselors, yes, almost certainly. How long do we have? Hard to say. Could be 5 years, could be 10, but probably not more than that. I sat back down, feeling overwhelmed. Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? Because we weren't sure about the genetic testing. Because we hoped we were wrong. Because we didn't want to terrify you unnecessarily. So instead, you terrified me necessarily. That wasn't the plan. What was the plan? Keep me healthy as a potential donor. Keep Nora healthy as a backup. Hope for the best. And lie to me indefinitely. That part wasn't supposed to happen. But it did happen. Yes. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, I asked the question I was dreading. What happens now? Now we wait. We monitor Mira's kidney function. We hope the genetic counselors were wrong. And if they weren't wrong, then we save our daughter's life. She's not your daughter, Tanner. Not in any way that matters. She's my biological daughter. You gave up any claim to her when you let me raise her for 8 years. I didn't give up anything. I was protecting her. From what? From having a father who wasn't ready to be a father. And now you're ready? Now I'm necessary. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him until he understood the magnitude of what he'd done to my family. But he was recovering from surgery, and I wasn't that kind of person. Instead, I stood up and walked toward the door. Silas, I turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About the deception, about the lies, about all of it. Are you sorry about sleeping with my wife? That happened before she was your wife. Are you sorry about letting me believe Mira was mine? No. You're a better father than I would have been. Are you sorry about the kidney donation? No, I'd do it again if I had to. I nodded. Then you're not really sorry about anything that matters. I left him there and drove home, my mind reeling with everything I'd learned. Nora was in the kitchen when I walked in, making lunch for Mira. "Where did you go?" she asked. "To see Tanner." Her face went white. "What did he tell you?" "He told me about Mira's genetic testing." She closed her eyes. "Silas, is it true?" "We don't know for sure." "Is it true?" "The genetic markers suggest." "Yes or no, Nora?" "Yes, probably." I looked through the kitchen doorway at Mira, who was watching television in the living room, completely oblivious to the conversation that was determining her future. "How long have you known?" 6 months. 6 months. The testing took time. We wanted to be sure. We? Tanner and I. Not me. I was going to tell you. When? When I figured out how. How about Silas? Our daughter might need a kidney transplant. That seems pretty straightforward. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Mira appeared in the doorway. "Hi, Dad. Are you staying home today?" I forced a smile. "Just for lunch." "Can we do something together this afternoon?" I looked at Nora, then back at Mira. "Sure, sweetheart. What do you want to do?" "Can we go to the park and maybe get ice cream?" "Absolutely." After lunch, I took Mira to the park while Nora stayed home to rest. We played on the swings and the slide, and I watched her run around with the endless energy of a healthy 8-year-old. She didn't look sick. She didn't act sick. But according to the genetic testing, she was carrying a time bomb in her DNA. "Dad? Yeah? Are you and Mom getting divorced?" The question caught me off guard. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you've been sad since she came back, and you keep looking at me funny." "How do I look at you funny?" "Like you're trying to memorize my face." "Kids, they see everything." "I'm not trying to memorize your face. I just like looking at you." "Because I'm cute?" "Because you're mine." She smiled and ran back to the playground. I watched her go, thinking about genetics and kidney function and the lies that had shaped our family. Whatever happened next, whatever truths came out, whatever decisions had to be made, I was going to protect her. Not because she was my biological daughter, but because she was my daughter in every way that mattered, even if her mother and biological father had forgotten what that meant. That evening, after Mira went to bed, I confronted Nora with everything I'd learned. "Tanner told me about the genetic testing," I said. She was folding laundry, moving slowly and carefully. "What did he tell you?" "That Mira will probably need a kidney transplant before she turns 18. Her hand stilled on a small pink t-shirt. "The doctors said it's not certain. But likely." "Yes." "And you've known this for 6 months." "Yes." "And you decided not to tell me." "I decided to handle it." "By having an affair with your ex-husband and giving him your kidney?" She looked up sharply. "I didn't have an affair with Tanner." "You had secret meetings. You made plans together. You underwent major surgery for him. You lied to me about all of it. What would you call it?" "I'd call it trying to save our daughter's life." "Our daughter who isn't actually our daughter." "She is our daughter, Silas. Biology doesn't change that." "Doesn't it? Because it seems like biology is driving every decision you've made for the past 6 months." She sat down heavily in the chair across from me. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to explain why you thought lying to me was better than including me in decisions about Mira's health." "Because I knew you'd react exactly like this." "Like what?" "Angry, accusatory, making this about your hurt feelings instead of about Mira's future." "My hurt feelings?" "Nora, you've been lying to me for 8 years about the most fundamental aspects of our family. This isn't about hurt feelings, this is about trust." "And what about Mira's trust? What happens when she finds out her father isn't really her father?" "I am really her father. I'm the one who's been here. I'm the one who's raised her." "But you're not the one who can save her life." The words hung between us like a challenge. I stared at my wife, trying to understand how we'd gotten to this point. "Is that what this is about?" I asked. "You're replacing me with Tanner because he's genetically useful?" "That's not what I'm doing." "Isn't it? You've been meeting with him secretly, making medical decisions with him, planning Mira's future with him. Where exactly do I fit into this scenario?" "You're her father." "But not her real father, not when it matters." "That's not true." "Then why didn't you include me in any of these decisions?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because I was scared." "Of what?" "Of losing you, of losing Mira, of making the wrong choice." "So you made all the choices yourself?" "I tried to make the best choices I could." "Based on lies." "Based on love." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our quiet suburban street. Normal houses with normal families dealing with normal problems. Not genetic time bombs and organ trafficking and 8 years of deception. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. Are you going to keep lying to me? I haven't been lying. Nora, she sighed. No, no more lies. Are you going to keep making medical decisions with Tanner behind my back? He's Mira's biological father. He has a right. He has no rights. He gave up his rights when he let me adopt her. You never adopted her. I turned around. What? You never formally adopted her. Legally, you're not her father. Another punch to the gut. Whose decision was that? Mine. I thought it would be simpler if there were no legal complications. Simpler for who? For everyone. You mean simpler for you to maintain your options. That's exactly what it is. You kept Tanner as her legal father so you could make decisions with him instead of me. I kept things flexible because I didn't know what the future would bring. The future brought 8 years of me being a father to a child who isn't legally mine. Silas. 8 years of parent-teacher conferences and pediatrician appointments and bedtime stories and birthday parties, all while you knew I had no legal standing. You have emotional standing. You have practical standing. But not legal standing. No. I sat back down, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath me. What else don't I know? What do you mean? What other legal complications are there? What other secrets? There's nothing else. Nora, you've lied to me about everything else. Why should I believe you about this? Because I'm telling you the truth now. Are you? Or are you just telling me the parts of the truth you think I can handle? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. My phone rang. Larry. I need to take this, I said. Silas, we need to talk, Larry said. In person, tonight. What did you find? More than you're going to want to hear. Where? Murphy's Tavern, 1 hour. I hung up and looked at Nora. I'm going out. Silas, please don't what? Don't try to find out what else you've been hiding? Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder than it has to be? Nora, you've destroyed our marriage. You've built our family on lies. You've made medical decisions about our daughter without including me. How exactly could this be harder? We can work through this. Can we? Because right now I don't even know who you are. I'm your wife. Are you? Or are you Tanner's co-conspirator who happens to live in my house? She started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative kind. I love you, Silas. I love our family. Then why did you risk it all for him? I didn't do it for him. I did it for Mira. You did it because you're still in love with him. That's not true, isn't it? You carried his child. You lied to me for 8 years to protect his secret. You gave him your kidney. You made him Mira's genetic insurance policy. If that's not love, what is it? It's desperation. I looked at her for a long moment, seeing not the woman I'd married, but a stranger who'd been wearing my wife's face for 8 years. I'll be back later, I said. How much later? I don't know. Silas, please. Please what? Please pretend this didn't happen. Please go back to living your lies. Please don't give up on us. I stopped at the door. I'm not giving up on us, Nora. You gave up on us 8 years ago when you decided Tanner was more important than the truth. I left her crying in the living room and drove to Murphy's Tavern, wondering if there was anything left of my marriage worth saving. Larry was waiting in a back booth, looking grim. This is bad, isn't it? I said. It's worse than bad. It's criminal. Tell me. Your wife and Tanner Jossman have been running a long-term con. The kidney donation was just the latest part of it. What kind of con? Financial. They've been systematically draining your assets for years. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. How? Joint accounts, forged signatures, fake medical expenses. They've taken at least $200,000 from your savings and retirement accounts. That's impossible. I monitor our finances. They were careful, small amounts over time, disguised as legitimate expenses, medical bills, home improvements, Mira's education fund. Mira's education fund doesn't exist. The money went into an account controlled by Tanner. I stared at him, trying to process what he was telling me. You're saying they've been stealing from me for years. I'm saying they've been planning this for years. The kidney donation, the false passports, the genetic testing story, it's all part of a bigger scheme. What's the end game? I'm still working on that. But Silas, there's something else. What? Tanner Jossman isn't sick. Never was. His medical records are fabricated. But the kidney transplant? Happened. But not because he needed it. because they needed to establish a medical connection between him and Nora, something that would justify ongoing contact and shared financial responsibilities. For what? I think they're planning to take Mira. The tavern seemed to spin around me. Take her where? I don't know yet, but think about it. Tanner is her legal father. Nora is her mother. You have no legal standing. If they wanted to disappear with her, there's not much you could do to stop them. They wouldn't do that. Wouldn't they? They've already stolen your money, lied about your daughter's paternity, and convinced you to raise another man's child for 8 years. What makes you think they'd stop there? I put my head in my hands, trying to think clearly. The genetic testing, Mira's kidney problems. What about them? Are they real? I'm still checking, but my guess is no. It's too convenient, too perfectly designed to justify everything they've done. So, Mira is healthy. As far as I can tell, yes. And the kidney donation was unnecessary. Completely. And my wife underwent major surgery for no medical reason. She underwent major surgery to advance a con game. I looked up at Larry. How long have you known? I started putting it together yesterday, confirmed most of it today. Why would they do this? Money, control, maybe they never stopped being married in any way that mattered. But why involve me? Why not just stay together? Because you had something they needed. Financial stability, a clean background, a legitimate life they could hide behind. So I was the mark. You were the mark. I finished my beer, thinking about 8 years of marriage, 8 years of fatherhood, 8 years of building a life with people who were apparently planning to steal it from me. What do I do now? You have options. We can build a criminal case. Fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. They could go to prison. And Mira would probably end up in foster care while the legal system sorted out custody. That's not an option. Then you need to beat them at their own game. How? By being smarter than they are, by planning better than they did. I'm not a con artist, Larry. No, but you're a federal investigator with access to resources they don't know about, and you have something they don't have. What's that? The moral high ground. I drove home slowly, thinking about everything Larry had told me. When I got there, the house was dark except for a light in Mira's room. I went upstairs and found her reading. Hey, sweetheart, it's past your bedtime. I couldn't sleep. Where did you go? I had to meet someone about work. Is everything okay? I sat on the edge of her bed. Everything's going to be okay. Promise? Promise. She hugged me tightly. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Mira, more than you'll ever know. Even if I'm not really your daughter? The question hit me like lightning. What? I heard you and Mom talking about Tanner being my real father. I felt my world tilt again. How much did you hear? Enough. And how do you feel about that? She was quiet for a moment. Sad, but not surprised. Not surprised? I always knew I looked different, and Tanner always looked at me funny when he came around. How did he look at you? Like he was trying to figure out if I was his. Smart kid. Too smart. Does it change how you feel about me? I asked. No. You're still my dad. You're the one who reads to me and helps with homework and makes pancakes on Sunday. And I always will be. Even if Mom and Tanner try to take me away? They're not going to take you away. But if they try, then I'll stop them. How? I don't know yet, but I will. She seemed satisfied with that answer. Dad? Yeah? I don't want to live with Tanner. Why not? Because he's not really my father, not the way you are. I tucked her in and kissed her goodnight, then went downstairs to find Nora waiting for me in the kitchen. We need to talk, she said. Yes, we do. Nora stopped arguing. No excuses, no speeches. She just slid a folder across the table. Flights, bank statements, unfinished custody papers. That was the moment it clicked. The kidney wasn't love. It was leverage. I was never the partner. I was the cover while they planned an exit. When Mira appeared in the hallway, scared and half asleep, everything else stopped mattering. I pulled her close and said the only truth left in the house. You're safe. I'm not leaving, and no one is taking you anywhere. She believed me instantly. That trust hurt more than any lie. After she went upstairs, I told Nora calmly what would happen next. No disappearing, no secret moves, lawyers, records, daylight. If Tanner showed up, I'd call the police. If money moved again, I'd freeze everything. Not out of revenge, but because Mira deserved stability, not schemes. That night, holding my daughter while the house finally went quiet, I understood something simple and brutal. A con only works while the mark is confused. And I wasn't confused anymore.